Well, it's kind of a clash, you know.
Mm-hmm.
A systems clash.
Well, I don't see how anybody can observe what's going on climate-wise, crop-wise, the warnings about crops, the severe weather, the earthquakes, the volcanoes, the sun acting anomalous and strange, how anybody can sit there and say, well, things are normal. I just...
Yeah, you can relatively tell that they're not normal, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing...
Matter of fact, I am getting more and more reports of people saying there's something wrong with our environment. You know, they're not going too far in saying that they were wrong, you know, when we begin to talk about earth changes.
Yes.
But they're agreeing now, a lot of them, that something's not quite right. I guess that's the easiest way I could put it.
Well, of course, with the approach of the destroyer, which is a non-event, the descent down through the Milky Way ecliptic, which is, the Mayan concept, which is another non-event, with the sun acting up, which is, according to some scientists, another non-event. We've got a lot of non-events that are adding up into things happening.
Oh, yeah. Very much so.
And now they say there's, I don't know if you've seen this, an asteroid orbiting the sun in a highly unusual horseshoe pattern, that Earth has found a new companion that has joined its own orbit around the sun. It's in our orbit. And it's called asteroid 2010 SO16, and it could pursue Earth for anywhere between the next 120,000 to 1 million years. It's 100 meters across, the largest space rock ever discovered so close to the Earth. Evidently, it goes in orbits that are, well, first it follows the sun, then it turns around, goes the opposite direction, then it follows us, then it turns around and goes another direction. And they know.
Well, that's definitely strange.
Yeah, I mean, all of this stuff is anomalous.
It is. You know, a lot of what they've been, I wonder if they're just now finding it or they're just now admitting that it's out there.
I think they're just now admitting it. It says very...
You know, it's just like this Elenin, this so-called comet. It makes you wonder, what are they really talking about? Have they tagged a destroyer, so to speak, as with this name? We really don't know.
Yeah, somebody sent me an orbit sheet about Elenin, and at first we thought it lined up on April 19th. They corrected that and said, no, that's not true. Which April 19th, by the way, is Passover. So I thought, well, that'd be very significant if in fact it did come very close to Earth on the 19th. This chart that they give you is a little bit misleading if you don't understand how they put it together, and I didn't. But anyway, there is an alignment on September 26th and November 5th with this so-called comet Elenin that doesn't exist.
Right.
Because nobody knows anything about it.
Well, they don't really know anything about the name of it much either. That's still a mystery too, is what they're saying. You know, this Elenin, this guy or whatever, the whole thing's a mystery.
Well, I'm beginning to think that maybe this is just a warning. What could be a better warning than to have an ELE and a NIN, which in Japanese means man, extinction level event for mankind?
Well, that's quite a sentence right there, actually.
Yeah, would that not be a message from the Creator that you better get ready because I'm about to bring on some stuff you're not going to like?
Yeah. Well, ironically, too, Stuart, talking about the Creator particularly, and I don't know if you want to go to the Middle East yet, but
sure.
This is lining up with some time frames in the Middle East that are rather incredible, too, and where that seems to be going.
Doesn't seem to be going too well.
No, not too well at all. Matter of fact, this thing, right now, I don't know if you heard Glenn Beck, he's leaving Fox, by the way.
Yeah, I heard he was, yeah.
And, matter of fact, some of the data that I saw about him yesterday was the fact that they're now saying that Glenn Beck is radioactive, and that, yeah, I mean, he has the highest ratings of any host, any show, but he's radioactive, so you can't use him. I mean, yeah, you know, he's almost as anomalous as Elenin is,
well,
the comet.
You cannot tell the actual truth.
See, that's the problem, and I'll tell you when it seems like, if you want to know what I think was the straw that broke the camel's back,
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we've noted that he had been under Fox, and recently George Soros, you know, and all the attacks on Fox Network and the host, etc. You know, a lot of this has been going on, but I'll tell you what, in the last week or so, really just before this news broke that he was leaving Fox, he came out and took a stand with Israel and reported that Obama and his administration and all of these other folks are a grave danger to the existence of Israel, that state.
Gee, it took him that long to figure that one out?
Well, I don't know if it took him that long to get the data together or what. It may have took him that long to get brave enough to say it publicly on television.
Well, here's something. Now that you brought that up, somebody sent me this. This is kind of interesting. Is America Christian? Let's take a look. In 1952, President Truman established one day a year as a national day of prayer. In 1988, President Reagan designated the first Thursday in May of each year as the National Day of Prayer. In June of 2000, presidential candidate Barack Obama declared that the USA was no longer a Christian nation. And this year, President Obama canceled the 21st annual National Day of Prayer ceremony at the White House under the ruse that he did not want to offend anyone. But then, on September 25th, a National Day of Prayer for the Muslim religion was held on Capitol Hill beside the White House.
You know, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. What is wrong with all these people that are not genius status? You know, just a small, rational baby brain would pick up on that.
Well, yeah. You know, I'm beginning to wonder if people even have the brains of chickens anymore.
Dude, I have animals that are smarter than people.
I know.
I've noted it, you know.
He says in here, I guess it doesn't matter if Christians are offended by this event. We obviously don't count as anyone anymore.
That's very true.
Yeah, the direction this country is headed should strike fear in the heart of every Christian, especially knowing that the Muslim religions believe that Christians cannot be converted. They have to be annihilated.
Oh, you mean that peaceful religion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that astounding. Uh-huh.
Tell you what, it's just, you know, it's one thing after another.
Well, you know, since Big O, if you want to call him that, you can call him whatever you want to, I suppose. But that's more respectful. Big O?
Yes, the Big
O.
O.
He's been in office. We've seen an incredible amount of data come out of his administration, and all of it, Stuart, is anti-Israel and anti-Christ.
Yes.
So I don't understand people still riding this barbed wire fence. They're going to get hurt on that fence, by the way.
Yeah, they are. In fact, you know, if he were to run now, probably 40 to 50% of the American people would reelect him.
At least that many. Yeah, at least that many.
Now, he's robbed them, pillaged them, about ready to, and now I hear that if they run short of money because of this theoretical shutdown, they might raid the retirement accounts of the government workers to pay for things. There's no end to it. They're gonna rob and rape their own people.
Well, I don't see anybody standing up to stop them, so I guess it really don't matter, does it?
No, it doesn't. And
the people don't seem to care. I haven't noted that they're concerned at all, except you know, this thing about Democratic and Republican is nothing but a giant smoke screen.
Oh yeah, it's all one thing.
It's all a total lie.
And I think this shutdown is being very orchestrated. Yeah,
but so many people, instead of worrying about the Psalm 2 war, they're worrying about the Republican-Democrat situation. You know, I mean, I would think that a war that would actually involve
their beheading,
eternity, which is much longer time than a blade of grass lives, okay?
Yep.
But they're worried about the grass stuff. They want that grass to be green no matter what.
Yeah.
I'm kind of knocking the green movement at the same time. I couldn't tell if you knew that or not.
The green movement is actually very red. Green
on
the outside.
It's bloody. It will be bloodier.
Oh, yes. It's very red.
And we're getting there. I've never seen and what's interesting, and I know this is kind of compressed a little bit today, but you know what's interesting is the incredible upramping or the increase in UFO activity that's been occurring along with all these other things.
Oh, it's all over the world.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And some of this stuff now is being photographed. Of course, that don't make it real, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, this stuff is incredible, and it's all running side by side.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you have millions of people that have seen them, and I'm one of them, you're one of them, that by the mouth of two or more witnesses is a thing established, and we have millions of people that have seen them, and yet it's not an established thing.
Hey, I got a call day before yesterday from some friends of yours in Oklahoma, and they know, where I'm at, and they said that they viewed two very strange triangle things in the sky over the area where I'm at. And one was huge, a giant triangular craft, and one was smaller, a lot smaller. And
TR-3Bs?
I don't know. The huge one was quite a bit bigger than, I know a lot of people think of TR-3Bs, and maybe one of them was. But the giant one, I don't know if they've got any that big, actually.
Wow.
So I don't know. But I didn't see them, by the way. But they saw them and reported it to me. And and they've noted quite a bit of interesting activity recently in the skies.
Yeah. And on the ground, too, I might add.
Yeah, on the ground, too, actually.
What's going on with the bizarre sightings down your way? Any more Bigfoot sightings or anything like that?
Seem to be having more and more reports. I had a report just south of me the other day that footprints were in a creek. Of course, that's just a report on footprints, but been a lot of reports recently of that activity.
Well, when Ed Dames was on Coast to Coast with Nori, he said that a lot of the Bigfoots, and it reminded me of Red Elk, said they are interdimensional travelers.
I'm not. That was interesting because Red Elk kind of differentiated between some of them. Some of them he said were animalistic, basically. And then some of them, he said, were beings with the ability to, travel dimensionally. And I think he said there was three kinds, actually, of Bigfoots. But, it's interesting that Ed Dames also is basically saying the same type thing,
Yeah, he said when you see one, you might be looking at Chewbacca or somebody with that intelligence, of Star Wars.
I remember that Star Wars movies. I do.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to run into one of them in a night and have him not be your friend, I guess.
No, that's true.
Moving over to Israel, you saw the thing about the UN saying, Israel, you just have got to quit this, and you've got to give up, and you have got to split Jerusalem, and you don't have any choice. You must surrender. You're a thorn in the side, coming right out of the Secretary General's office.
Yeah.
In his mouth. And then it says, President Perez here says, Israel willing to cede the Golan to Syria? I didn't think Netanyahu was going to go along with that.
Well, Netanyahu and Perez are not lovers.
Yeah.
And, however, at the same time, Perez was recently in a meeting with Obama, according to the press, because Netanyahu and Obama don't have a relationship to share, And so Perez apparently has worked. Of course, Perez. He's been